Good morning. We continue our review of the conclusion of Ayin Beis. We're now close to the end of the essay that I wrote on this, which can be found at the WhatsApp Ayin Beis group. And though I mentioned the dedication back on Thursday, Chayel, I want to mention it now at the beginning of the class. I mentioned it then at the end of the class that our dear Meira dedicated the class, and will dedicate this class as well in honor of the first yahrzeit of her brother, Michael or Michal ben Devorah Edel and Yosef Shavino. May his neshama have an aliyah, and may the merit of our learning serve the soul well, and Meira and all the family. Only good news for a good and blessed year. Okay, so with that, we now go to the essay. And we began, let me just open it up. Let's see, let me find it. Where is it? Here, yesterday, we came to the conclusion of the questions, the final questions about Keser Shem Tov, the crown that is not enumerated among the three crowns, but is Eila al Gabeim. Reviewed that in detail. I also pointed out that we have a mimer in Samach Vov that the Rebbe Rashab talks about it, which is based on a mimer from the Mittler Rebbe, and I will be adding that in writing. Right now, I still have to write it up. Then from that, we moved to the comparison between Hemshech Ayin Beis and Hemshech Samach Vov. And that's what we're in the middle of. So let's review what we learned. Let me go to the page. I believe we're on page 45. So what's the comparison between Hemshech Samach Vov and Hemshech Ayin Beis? These are the two classic, great the discourses, series of discourses that the Rebbe Rashab delivered and then wrote down. One beginning in 1906 or 1905, I should say, Rosh Hashanah Samach Vov, and spans for 61 Maimorim for a few years, 3 years. And the other one that began 6 years later, Shavuos Tafrei Ayin Beis, 1912. So the point I was making was that it's very likely, makes sense, to say that they complement each other, and one continues with the other left off. So based on our whole discussion of the yichud of Elikus and Elamus, of Ein Sof, a divine transcendence with the immanent divine within existence, which is the central theme of Ayin Beis, and there's mamat l'mayla, mamayla l'mata, from the bottom up through tefillah, and from the top down primarily through Torah, bottom up primarily through tefillah. So we can now go back and say that Samach Vov is more, the focus is on Aveda B'Koyach Atzmei from the bottom up, Ben Shanasa Eved, a Ben that becomes an Eved. An Eved works with his own effort and it's come based on Kabbalah's oil, not so much him integrating it and understanding and appreciating and intimately connecting with but like we learned about B'Shal Sheikh Dimu itself, the idea of Kabbalah's oil that reaches into Keser, into the Helama Atzmi. That's Samach Vov, and Ayin Beis follows that. Ayin Beis is the Hamshach L'Mamayla L'Mata, the Eved Shanasa Ben, primarily through Torah, bringing it down into existence. Obviously, there's overlap, and each one has other Ayin Beis for sure. We talked about both tracks, but still, overall, Samach Vov is more the focus on Mamat L'Mayla, and Ayin Beis would be more integration and internalizing it into our system. And I said that this it can be appreciated even more when you see that in Samach Vav, he goes according primarily the Shita of Eiris Pshutim, that the energies, the Eir, is shapeless and seamless, Whereas in Ayin Beis, he goes according to the Shita that the Eidos Amitsuyarim have shape and form. And now we'll learn what's the distinction and the connection to Mamat Lamayla Mamayla Lamata, to one, divesting ourselves of our structure and going up into a state of Bligvul, where there's Pshitus, shapelessness, and the other is bringing it back into the garments, into the Levushim, into the structure, which would be the Shita of Eidos Mitsuyarim, which is the Eidos in a shape and form. Like and we discussed the difference between wave and particle, quantum and the quantum state of indeterminism, and the macroscopic state of determinism, and I both join. That was part of our discussion yesterday. So with that, let's continue on page 46. I'm in paragraph 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth paragraph. So here we are. Based on this difference, that the shit that the Samach Vav goes according to primarily the shita, the opinion in Kabbalah, that the earth is poshet, shapeless, and Ayin Beis is primarily the shita, like he said, the fia shita mavur b'drush zeh, primarily structured. He says, based on this, we can perhaps say that the Rebbe Rashab, his chilim hemshech tafres Samach Vav. First, he began by writing to hemshech Samach Vav, v'sham ikar ad gosha, and there the main emphasis is lefi hashita the eres pshutim, according to the opinion that the eres are shapeless. Hu haveda be'inyan hafshota mitzira nevradim. So the aveda is hafshota, divesting, stripping ourselves of the tzir, of the structure, and the definitions and the parameters of Nivraim, halal mamata lamayla. So we're taking mamata lamayla, an existence that is structured, and we're elevating it to a place that is more bligvul, more the divine, that is less structured or non-structured. Aveda b'kei chasme b'yegio b'kabbalah seil, the effort that is initiated from below, with an exertion and with a Kabbalah seil, meaning not about my appreciating or resonating with me, but I'm just accepting the yoke of heaven. Ben shenasa eved, the ben that becomes an eved poshet. Aliyah mebchinas hagiluyim lebchinas atzmusei yisbarach, and that is essentially the aliyah elevating from giluyim, where giluyim there is structure based on the level of gili, the hierarchy of revelation in each world, in Asiya, Yitzira, Bria, Atzilus, and so on, to the level of Atzmus, which is where Kabbalah Seil leads you. Aveda Pshuta leads us straight into Kayach, like we learned, rooted in Atzmusei Yisbarach. So once that's covered, Ula Achrezeh, after Hemshech Samach Vav addresses that and focuses primarily on that point, Lachrezeh Boyim LaHemshech Terav. Then we come to the Hemshech of Ayin Beis, which was delivered a few years afterwards. Sheshamavayat Hemshech HaAveda. There he explains the continuation of the Aveda. The Aveda doesn't end with Samach Vav. The Nesef LaAveda Momatel Ma'ila Tefillah, that in addition to the service through from the bottom up, through davening, through Tefillah, Magim LaAveda Damshach Mamayla Mata Idei Teira. You reach now the Amshacha from the top down through Teira. Eved Shanasa Ben, that the Eved that has divested himself and is completely subjugated to the master is becoming a Ben, meaning he's drawing it into a closeness that is also a relationship like a Ben. And here, Etzem Nimshel Begili. In the first step, we talk about the Giluyim going up to the Etzem and losing their so-called structure, suspending their structure. And here we're talking about bringing the Etzem back into Gili. Etzem Nimshel Begili. The Hamshich Achdusi is but of Betechis Slapshus by Nivroim. To draw down the unity of Hashem in a manifest way, enclosed within the Nivroim. Eidos Mitziyarim. And that's emphasized by the energies that have shape and form. Because the shape and form means that the Eir Eliki, the divine light, is now coming into a shape and form. Sheba Eir HaBigvul, that the Eir of Bligvul, Shir Ba'atzme HaGvul. So the Eir HaBigvul begins by by envisioning the structure of existence. There's no structure yet, but God first envisions it. Then he allocates resources, and then go the levels that he ultimately creates that structure, as he said in Perek of Zayin, chapter 27 in Ayin Beis. So there you have now Samach Vav, primarily Mamat Lamayla, Ayin Beis, in addition to Mamat Lamayla, Mamayla Lamata. But then we come to the third level, Adli Yichud Shal Beis HaYichudim, and to the point that you actually miyachid both of them, like essentially Samach Vav and Ayin Beis. The Yichud of Yichud Tata, Yichud Elah, Mamat Lamayla, Mamayla Lamata, both the Yichud from the bottom up and the Yichud from the top down, K'mavur B'sima Hemshech, as explained at the end of Ayin Beis, Yichud Shel HaMagbi v'HaMashpili, which is the Yichud of HaMagbi, elevating, HaMashpili, drawing down, K'mavur B'drush Admur Amsoi, like the Mittel Rebbe's Maimer HaMagbi explains at length, Koilul Gam HaBittel De'einoid, plus the additional fourth track. I don't want to call it fourth track, but just like the Keser Shemtev, Shehelam Atzmi Yored B'Bchinas Helam Atzmi. So that's the ultimate, that also the very concealment itself radiates from Helam Atzmi, which earlier we talked about as being Keser Shemtev Eila Al Gabeim, higher than the three Ksarim, Keser Tere, Keser Kuna, Keser Malchus of Seder Shtalshlos, which responds to the three levels of Yichud, Havayit, and Elikim. So there you have Samach Vav and Ayin Beis. Any questions? The Efsher, and perhaps we can say, Zeu al derech hahefresh, this is similar to the difference, the Hemshech Terev Atzmei. In the Hemshech Ayin Beis itself, we learned the difference between Bein HaYichud Mamata Lamayla, Shemetzias Eilim Gam Le'achlish Nesava, between the Yichud from the bottom up, that existence of the world, even after it was created, who bottled Kamei Shekedim Shenesava, completely nullified, just as before it was created, like we said, Ani Hashem Le'shanisi, Atu Kedim Shenivra Elam, Atu Mishanivra Elam, Umamayla Lamata, Shemetzias Elam Atzmehu Alakus. As he explains at the end of the Hemshech, the two levels of bittul. The first bittul is that the existence of the world is bottle, because in the presence of the divine, it's completely nullified. The higher level, Mamayla Lamata, well, I could say the next level, Mamayla Lamata, is that the Metzias Atzmei Zelikus. So that's like the difference between Eres Pshutim and Eres Mitziyarim. In Eres Pshutim, it's about divesting from existence, from structure and identity. Eres Mitziyarim is investing in it and manifesting within it. Val derech, another comparison could be Hachilik ben Chelik Rishon de Tanya. Bitter Hatachten, the first part of Tanya, the Kutei Amorim, the 53 chapters, is all about Dira B'Tachtenim, about refining existence and making it a home for the divine. Bechelik Sheni, Shari Yechid V'Amuna, is all about Bittel Hatachten, that the whole existence is bottled because it's all the Dvar Hashem, the divine energy that's constantly sustaining it. So essentially, the first section in Tanya is talking about birur, in other words, islapshus, like mamayla lamata, and the second is more like a mamat lamayla. I wouldn't use those words exactly, but one is about birur and transformation, and one is more about bittul and losing yourself in the bittul telekus. Just another way of comparing these, and this another way of comparing these two approaches in understanding Samach Vav and Ayin Beis. Now, obviously, they complement each other, and they overlap, and they both need each other. Okay.
Visit Sarning, Chelik Sheni in Tanya. I never heard that.
Where's what?
Chelik Sheni, you said, is a biru.
Shar HaYichud V'Amuna. Shar HaYichud V'Amuna. What are you asking me?
Okay.
There's Likutei Amorim, the first 53 chapters. Likutei Amorim is basically Birur Hatachten. Shar HaYichud V'Amuna, the second section. Tanya is made up of 5 halakim. L'kuta amorim shayichet v'amuna geres hatshuva geres hakedesh and kuntras achra. So chelik sheni I'm referring to is shari yuchid v'amuna. Ubesiglen
So you
achra
could say
ksach.
that Ayin Beis is a hemshech to Samach Vav. Not mamish a hemshech, but that's a
I wrote a whole
continuation.
thing. Were you here yesterday's class? That's what we're learning now. We're discussing this. We discussed this at length yesterday, and now we're finishing the point. If you go back from the beginning, Hemshech Tavasam, Hemshech Ayin Beis, in this essay, you can read it. That's exactly what we were discussing. Were you in yesterday's class? Yeah, just reread. You'll see. I wrote exactly that. That you could say Hemshech Ayin Beis begins where Samach Vav ends. Okay. Ubesigna nacheksas. And another way of putting it, rephrasing it, Behemshech Tafrei Samach Vav Madgish Mailas Avedis Haberurim Elmata Lamaylo Dafke. In Samach Vav, he emphasizes the advantage, the quality of Berurim from the bottom up. Shezeh Magia Behelam Ha'atzmi, that reaches in Helam Ha'atzmi. Ve'ilu Behemshech Terav, and by contrast, in Hemshech Ayin Beis, Nira Sheretzel Lahadgish Beikaras Mailas HaTeira wants to emphasize the mile of Teira, Mile Lamata. Ela Shaludei Vavenu Lo Nistayim Hemshech. But sadly, he never finished the Hemshech. So you don't really see this conclusion. But you see from the second half of volume 3, beginning with page 1350, when he starts talking about Teira, he remains in middle, but based on all our discussions, it seems clear that he's concluding the punchline will ultimately be that after Tefillah comes Teira, and then there's the Yichur of both Yichudim. And as we discussed at length, what would come afterwards in the refinement of the animal soul, and their mitzvah, Teira, Riyah, and now finally the Ksarim, and finally the ultimate conclusion of all the Yichudim coming together.
Why? I know that
Now,
the Rebbe Rashab did not say Ayin Beis out of Lubavitch, but since he did not he didn't finish to answer everything, why didn't he continue?
he did continue the whole volume 3. He wrote, continued writing all the way till at least Tafresh Ayin Ches. What do you
But
mean?
we still have questions that he did not answer.
What say you asked? This is what
I'm
we
just
discussed.
trying to understand.
So most likely he didn't have time or whatever. He didn't finish it. You want me to speculate why he didn't finish it? It could be he didn't have the time to do it. That's the most likely answer.
But
Is there deeper
wrote,
intention?
but
Maybe.
he said other chassidus, Ayin Zayin, Ayin Ches, and Ayin Tes.
So next time you meet the Rebbe Rashab, you'll ask him. I can't tell you more than I know.
Okay.
Your guess
Just
is
wanted
as
to
good
hear.
as mine. What difference? The bottom line is he didn't finish it. What the reason is, can't give the answer. He didn't finish it, and that's the whole point of this essay, is trying to figure it out. He gave us enough hints. However, the most likely reason is time. But there could be, and I'm sure there may be deeper reasons as well. As I wrote in the beginning of the essay, we know that he continued writing at least till middle of Tafresh Ayin Ches. He left Lubavitch at the beginning of Ayin Vav. So he wrote at least 2 years afterwards. Could be he wrote later as well. We don't know for sure. But Ayin Ches, because he refers to that year. There's certain places he refers to Maimorim of that year. So we know that he was still writing then. The Rebbe Rashab would pass away in Tafresh Pei, 1920. So till 1918 for sure. That's what we know. I don't
I
think I ever...
understand what he's saying. After I involved,
There's a
he
lot of
said
things we don't have.
powerful.
I don't have that answer to. I mean, why do you
Okay.
find certain things that the Rabbeim began something and they didn't finish? Very likely, it's usually time, but it could be there's deeper
I
kavanah. I don't know what to
understand.
say.
But it's not that he stopped chassidus b'klal. They are so powerful,
That's
Ma'amorim,
not.
Ayin
He didn't
Zayin,
say
Ayin
that.
Ches.
There's my modem all the way till the end of Tafresh till Beis Nisan Tafresh Pei almost.
Yeah, powerful Ma'amorim.
Right. So okay. Any questions on what we learned till here?
Maybe he figured that we would figure it out, that the last part is Yichudim, like Rabbi Simon said.
I don't think that's the reason he didn't continue writing, because he wrote till here. I mean, we could have figured out other things too. I don't know. Anyway, I think it's a complete speculation, impossible to know, and that's that. People have speculated different reasons, but nobody really knows for sure. It's correct that he did not say Maimorim outside of Lubavitch in Ayin Beis. Ayin Beis was always said within Lubavitch, and that's what he wrote was not what he said. He didn't deliver that. He just wrote it. But the winters that he would travel, let's say in 1914, 1914 primarily, in 1913, Ayin Gimel, Ayin Daled, he didn't say any Maimorim when he traveled to Europe on Ayin Beis. He may have written, but he didn't say Maimorim. So saying Maimorim. So there are those that say that there was still Bochum in Lubavitch until Tofrei Shayin Ches. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. But I don't know if that would be the reason anyway. Okay. There are no questions. We move on with another interesting piece here. We're really coming to the end of this essay. So all clear? Any more questions? So the next section, I'm going to try to explain an expression when the Rebbe gave out Ayin Beis to publish the whole Ayin Beis. It was Yutas Kislev Tovshin Lamed Zayin. Basically the end of November 1976. So middle of the Farbrengen, closer to the end, it was a big chiddush the Rebbe announced, the whole story that till now Ayin Beis was never published, only part of it, only the beginning of it, and for reasons the Rebbe said that were connected to what he said, chash, concerns involved. It sounded like it was somewhat, I don't want to say the word dangerous, but somewhat, they were very careful and cautious not to do it. We have no idea what that Rebbe meant by that. And then the Rebbe said, we'll publish it, and we'll publish it without any names, and all Chassidim will contribute $1 as a token contribution. I'm not going to go into the whole Sikha. But in it, the Rebbe used a very interesting expression. He said that Ayin Beis is Niflaos, wonders, afilu legabe the Niflaos for Samach Vav. The Rebbe's expression. So it's a powerful expression that Samach Vav is Niflaos, wonders, and Ayin Beis is wonders even compared to the wonders of Samach Vav. So I'm going to explain now my own suggestion here, the derech efsher, possible. What does the Rebbe mean by that? What is the wonders, legaba the wonders? Now you may recall that in Ayin Beis the word Pella and Nifla is used quite a few times. Pella is the level of Keser. And in Pella itself, we learned there are two levels. So I'm going to suggest that Samach Vav is the first level of Pella, Niflaos, and Ayin Beis is the higher level of Pella, based on what we just learned of Mamat Lamayla, Mamayla Lamata, and the joining of them together, the two levels of Pella. So that would then even tie it even more so that Samach Vav is also a level of Keser. But the Keser that you reach the first level, then there's the second level. So we'll read that now inside. According to the above, that we learned about Samach Vav and Ayin Beis, perhaps we could also explain Diuk l'sheinei shel Nesiderenu, the very precise language that the Rebbe used, b'siches Yutas Kislev Tovshin Lamed Zayin, in the sikh, in the talks that he delivered, Yutas Kislev in the year 5737, which is basically 1976 because it was still November that year. Shebehemshech Tera Avroyim, that in Hemshech Ayin Beis we see, and this is the Rebbe's language, Niflaos afilu legaba Niflaos shel Hemshech Tofrei Samach Vav. Wonders, even compared to the wonders of Hemshech Samach Vav. So the Rebbe is comparing the two and saying this is wonders and this is wonders legaba wonders. And here's the suggested explanation. By Hemshech Perek Reish Chavav, in Hemshech Ayin Beis, chapter 226, page 457, the Elach and on, Mavayir Sheyesh Beis Darges Bepella. That there are two levels in Pella. Pella is wonder. Al Pi Beis Pirushim B'Zeyar. He brings there two interpretations in Zeyar. They are one interpretation that we say Pella, it's Asius Aleph. So Aleph goes on Chochmah, and Chochmah is like a keli for Pella of Keser. And the second is that Aleph and Pella are exactly the same level. Not just one is a keli for the other, one becomes the other. Pella Asius Aleph, Hamshachas Keser Pella B'Chochmah, similar to what we learned about Torah, if you remember Nasav and Ishma, the Ayin of Keser going into the Ayin of Chochmah. So Hamshachas Keser Pella B'Chochmah Aleph. And the second interpretation, Pella Atzmehu Aleph. That Pella itself is Aleph, his Achdus Gmura Shel Keser V'Chochmah. That Keser and Chochmah become completely one. Not just that from Keser you're having Hamshachah into the Aleph. And this is the difference between Makif and Pnimi. I'm sorry, this is the Achdus of Makif. Keser is Makif, and Chochmah is Pnimi. Aremimcha, Elekai HaMelech. Aremimcha is like Keser Pella, Reimamus. Elekai HaMelech is Pnimi, like Aleph. Hein Mel Mata Lamaila, Vehein Mel Maila Lamata. Like we learned Aremimcha Elekai HaMelech, we have it from the bottom up and from the top down. And when you join them both together, and the union of these two unions is through the third level in Keser, Pnimius Atik, Ad Latzmus Yisbarach, till Atzmus itself, Shalamayla Mebli Gvul Gvul, Umamakiv Pnimi, that's higher than both Bli Gvul and Gvul, higher than Makiv and Pnimi, Ubekeche La'achet Shneim Ba'achdus Gmura. And in the power of Atzmus, you have the power to connect both in a total seamless union. Okay. So now, how do we apply this to Samach Vav and Ayin Beis? The Rebbe is saying Niflaos Legab Niflaos. V'yesh leimer, shehemshel tafrei Samach Vav, you can say, hemshel tafrei zam hu keneged b'chinas ha'alav shal Niflaos. The Rebbe calls it Niflaos, Pella. The first level, Shumerumam Arumimcha Ulamayla B'chinas Pella Mishtalshlus Umaeris Pnimim. That's exalted and above, and higher than in a state of Pella. That's higher than Ishtalshlus and the imminent energies of Eris Pnimim. It's Makif of Keser. Haveda the ben Shanasa Eved, the ben that divests himself and becomes Eved, a servant. Be'ikar l'fi hashita de Eris Pshutim, which primarily, according to the Shita, like we discussed earlier, of the seamless energy. It doesn't have any shape and form. So it's in a state of Pella, Hafshata Mitzir Anivraim, stripped from the structure of creation, Halal Mamata Lamayla Canal, which is elevating from the bottom up. That's the first level of Pella of Samach Vav. The Ilu Hemshech Terav, whereas Hemshech Terav, in the words of the Rebbe, Pella and Niflaos Legabin, the Niflaos of Ay Samach Vav, who connected B'chinas HaBeis Shal Niflaos. That corresponds to the next level of Niflaos, the higher level. Niflaos Afil Legabin Niflaos Shal Hemshech Taf Amach Vav, in the language of the Rebbe. Shemamshech Hafla Gamba Pnimius. So it's not just going up into a state of Pella, but it's also bringing the Hafla into the Pnimius, the Seder Ishtalshlus, uniting the two. The union of both, from bottom up, top down, Haveda the Eved Etzem Shanasa Ben Gili, that the Etzem now is coming down into the Gili. So you have both the quality of the Etzem, of Eved, and the quality of the Gili Ben. And that's the Niflaos Legab Niflaos of Samach Vav. That is my derech efsher possible suggestion in explaining the Rebbe's words. Again, it's I don't have besides what we've learned it ultimately comes down to my understanding of it, and people can agree or disagree or have another way of looking at it, another way of explaining it, all fine. Any questions?
I mean, there's quite a bit here, Rabbi. So I, for one, I would need to like review this and much slower pace to digest it fully. But could you explain this idea of, and I think we talked about it a little bit before, but Eved Shanasa Ben, how Eved is symbolic of Etzem and how Ben is reflective of Gilui.
Eved is bittul. He's divesting himself, and he just doesn't matter whether he feels or doesn't feel. That's it.
And Ben, how is Ben Gilui?
Ben is a personal, intimate connection with his father. It's all about Giluyim.
So again, forgive me, I'm still digesting, but in this sense,
by the way, I suggest you do exactly that, and not only that, look it up in the sources, and you'll see. In Samach Vav, there's maybe 50, 60 pages just on the difference between Ben and Eved, just for the record. So there's plenty to read. But what do you want to ask?
I'm at a disadvantage because I haven't read that part of the Hemshech. Anyways, but I'm trying to restate what you said so I can see if I understand it. Eved reflects Etzem because it's.
I didn't say it reflects Etzem. Eved is losing your identity as you're climbing up to the Bli Gvul, all the way to the highest levels. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And that's so I was going to say Eved is Lamata Lamaila, and Ben is Lamaila Lamata because it's Gilui. It's a Hamshacha of Etzem into Metzias. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not Eved Shenaso Ben. It's Ben Shenaso Eved.
Ben Shanasa Eved, I said, was Samach Vav, and Eved Shanasa Ben, I said, was Ayin Beis.
There is such a concept?
That second part of that is my own expression. It's not from the Rebbe Rashab.
Yeah, because I think there are no such concept. There's no Eved Shenaso Ben.
It's an expression that you take the bitl of the Eved and you mamshchit bepnimius into the Ben, into the keiches pnimim. You don't want to use that expression? Don't. I use that expression because it works for me. What should I say?
Which is not what we learned about Nasa and Nishma, the level of Kabbalah soul, bringing it into our understanding, into our structure, into our
Nasa and Nishma is both elements actually. It has the element of Kabbalah. So hikdimu Nasa hikdimu Yisrael Nasa Nishma. That's what we remember. That reaches into the Helama Atzmi and Keser, and then the Nishma part is that it's being nimshach into Torah. Spoke about both milas. Right.
Bringing both of them. The question I have is that yichud of Pella and Aleph and Pella, what about the fourth level, that the Ein Od and Moedecha?
As I said, the fourth level is a separate track that you're not always going to find. It's the Rebbe Rashab called it an Iyim b'fnei atzmei. It's not always going to be included because it's not part of the regular avodah. It's a unique element to it. I don't know if there is. You're going to find it in Aleph and Pella.
I
mean, if someone can come up with a way to fit it in, by all means, but I don't see it.
So you did not deal with that in your essay, that level?
I didn't feel a need to deal with it. There's nothing missing here, in my mind.
Well, if there is a fourth dimension, another dimension.
No, the Rebbe simply, I'm trying to explain what the Rebbe meant by Niflaos of Ayin Beis compared to the Niflaos of Samach Vav. That's the focus here. I don't need to connect it to every level, just coming to explain those two levels of Niflaos.
Right, and that's that second level, which is Panemius Atik. We refer to that not as Ratzon, but as Tainug, Oneg. How's that? So how does that?
That's not discussed really in Ayin Beis much, so I didn't discuss it either. doesn't talk about it. We talked about this. Someone asked him. Maybe you asked. I don't know.
I think they asked it.
Ratzon is the main focus in Ayin Beis. When he talks about Kesser, he calls it Ratzon. Doesn't really talk about Tainug in that section, at least. In Samach Vav, in the Maimon Vayechulu, in some places in Ayin Beis, he talks about Tainug and Ratzon. But I didn't see, again, it's not something that I saw was necessary to include in here. Point being is, there are many, many themes and ideas that are not included in this that can be so-called extensions and perfectly legitimate points of discussion. But I'm focusing on what we learned and what to answer the questions and what Hemshech Ayin Beis would have looked like had the Rebbe Rashab perhaps would have looked like had the Rebbe Rashab continued. That's my focus here. My focus is not connected to everything in Chassidus and so on. When Rebbe Rashab connects, we connect. What he doesn't connect, you could speculate, but
without a connection to this explanation that we said now, that the Rebbe Rashab is talking only about that, but the fourth level, the Kesser Shem Tov, this is the biggest and the deepest point of everything, correct? Because this is the Dira B'Tachtenim. Atzmus is in Sgala in that.
I don't know if I would put it that way, because Havayu Elikim and the transformation of the Tzimtzum, that the world is a keli for Elikus, is equally Dira B'Tachtenim. There's one additional point that the Yesh itself becomes one with the Yesh Anivra, or the Guf is Neshama Nezunis Min HaGuf. So there's that additional element, but it's not the only point in Dira B'Tachtenim. Dira B'Tachtenim is achieved through all our Aveda in Ner Hashem, Nishma Sodom, Tfilah, Ner Mitzvah, Tere'er. Then there's one more final point, that the Helam itself, of Elikim itself, Laila Atzma Yoir. And it's an important piece. I'm not saying it's not. It's the final punchline. But all of them together work together. You have to remember that. The Pasuk V'yadaita Yem V'shavis Alevechi K'avayu Elikim B'Shamayim Amal V'Oros Mitachas Einoid. So Einoid is the final punch, the final statement, but it also follows what comes before. So I look at it more like you need all of it for the whole picture. There's no, again, it's not a competition. They all complement each other. It's like saying even when the guf l'asad lave will be eila to its highest level, you'll still have a neshama. I'll still have teira, and we'll still have giluyim, and you'll have, say, the shtalshlus. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, but it's not a contradiction to what you said. But it's not a contradiction.
I know. I just said it's the whole picture. Yeah.
Yeah, the expression of Atzmus, of the Dira B'Tachtenim, is being expressed in the deepest way, in the lowest way. Of course, you need all the other things to reach that. But this is the essence.
Yeah, but it goes further than that. Remember, neshamas are also rooted in the etzem, and so is Torah. So that's also part of the picture. It's not just the guf.
But the idea is that the guf, even the guf, which is the lowest, is one thing through neshama and everything that we explained.
Well, we learned all this. So I just qualify, because I don't want to give the impression that one thing is more than another. We learned all this, and there's context to all of it. There's the mila of the guf, there's the mila of the neshama, there's the mila of Torah, there's the mila of neshama mitzvahs, etc. Yes, but it's correct to say that the ultimate point is that the helema atzmi, laila atzma yoyer, that the darkness itself, the tzimtzum itself, elikim itself will be megala elikus, not just be megala havaya. It won't just be havayu elikim. That's correct.
I don't know if whoever was asking is finished. Was that Rabbi Tachtel? Were you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still trying to understand, so this may be incomplete or misformed question, but how is, I think you were saying that in general, there's overlap. You've said that many times, so you're not trying to be too over generalizing, but Samach Vav is Milamata Lamaila, and Ayin Beis is more Milamata Milamayla Lamata. That's not my question yet, but is that correct so far?
Primarily because they both talk about both.
Right. Okay. So why is it that the experience or the effort? I mean, maybe it's because you're talking about Yichud Tata versus Yichud Ila, and Yichud Ila is necessarily a more profound.
What's the question before you say maybe? What are you asking?
How is it that the to oversimplify the lamata lamaila? Sorry, how is it that the lamaila lamata is more wondrous than the lamata lamaila? You talked about how they're both important. We have to make the effort from above. We have to subjugate ourselves, and we have to see God as sovereign, and then
So,
the idea.
So that's why you have to go into the discussion of the Aleph and Pella, the two meanings. The first one that the Aleph elevates into Pella, and the second that they're literally one.
So seeing the Pella and the Aleph,
that they become like one. That's what he says in Ayin Beis. If you look at the chapter that I cited, you look inside, you'll see one is higher than the other.
You said in Ayin Beis or Samach Vav?
Ayin Beis.
Where's the citation, please?
The paragraph Al Pizeh Ulai Efsha, the second line. I would strongly suggest, as you said yourself, just read it slowly for yourself, and you'll see it. It's all there. Chapter it says it. See? Chapter
I see.
Two, there. So there's the whole discussion about two interpretations in Pella and Aleph. A second point is that Ayin Beis goes further. It's not just Mamayla Lamata. It's the joining of Mamayla Lamata, Mamata Lamayla.
Yes, I hear that. That fair point. Yes, thank you. That's you're saying that's the Niflaos, the Gabe Niflaos.
Well, they're both correct, because one level of Pella is higher than the lower level of Pella, and then there's the joining of both. So I really combine them both here.
Would it be a good idea after finishing Ayin Beis to learn Samach Vav?
Some people want to learn Samach Vav. Some people want to learn Ayin Beis again.
That's also a good idea.
They're all good ideas. The question is, you can't do them all.
Ayin Beis again is a very good idea. But if you're talking about another option, because Samach Vav, many people did not learn.
Well, Ayin Beis also many people did not learn. That's why we learned it.
But Ayin Beis, you have it all recorded, so everybody can go back and listen and read. But Samach Vav, it'll be an amazing thing. I've studied Samach Vav, but not like the way you put it, in every line by line. You know what I mean? So I mean, just a thought, but I think that would be great, because for Ayin Beis we could always go back, and you could go back to Ayin Beis 10 times. It's just like reading the Torah. Every time you're gonna find something you never did. I mean, it's Torah. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. It's a good point. I've not really made a decision about this. It's open for discussion. Let's see what everybody says. And right now I'm focused where we are, and then we'll,
I have a great idea. I'm going to be very generous with your time. How about if you have two classes, one for each Hamshech?
Oh yeah.
Well, if you really want, there are other Hamshechim as well. You could have already 10 classes. They're not only two Hamshechim Chassidus.
If you're offering.
Well, I didn't offer anything.
Yeah, Simon has nothing to do. Simon has nothing to do with his life. He sees a person has hours and hours to spare.
I was joking. Of course, he's not going to give two classes. I get it.
Yitzchak is already holding by Latid La'avo,
Yeah, exactly.
From my point of view, my pleasure is to learn Chassidus. I would have no problem giving 2 or 10 classes. I give classes all the time. But, you got to also choose your priorities. I give classes for some people who this may be too advanced, the text-based and so on. So remember, I'm teaching Samach Vav and Ayin Beis all the time, just not the text.
Yes.
True.
Throughout the whole learning of Ayin Beis, you've always talked about coming to the transformation of the Tzimtzum itself. Is that level that we've always been talked about throughout the years? Is that this level of the yichud of Aleph and Pella of Ayin Beis and Samach Vav, Eved, and and Ben, or is it that fourth track? That we won't call it fourth track, that independent track where the moon itself will become a
It's a
model.
very good question. The answer is both, because even in Samach Vav itself, I'm sorry, Ayin Beis, there are two aspects to the transformation of the Tzimtzum. One is the Havayu Elikim side of it, and the other is the Einoid side. I'll use those words because those are the actual words from Samach Ayin Beis. In other words, we begin with the concealment of Elikus through the Tzimtzum, and godliness is filtered, regulated into Mamala Kalam and into the structure of existence. Our Veda begins the process of retracing the steps, as we often refer to it, where you elevate the world through mitzvahs, through Torah, through our Veda, Veda Sabirurim, and you're slowly piercing the Tzimtzum by bringing more light into this world, right? In other words, the world on its own is a dark world. When a neshama, which is like compared to a ner, a candle, ner Hashem nishmasodam, does a mitzvah, ner mitzvah, and Torah it illuminates this dark world. This illumination has many, many levels. And you're climbing, and slowly, slowly, what you're doing is countering the effects of the Tzimtzum. It's like the example that the Magid brings, or the Rebbe cites, famous Chabish Oser B'Shvat, when the Rebbe was crying very uncontrollably. The Magid says that the Tzimtzum is like God concealing himself from his child in order to elicit our ingenuity to find him. But then he hid himself so well, we can give up looking. That's when the Rebbe said, Zuntig gesucht. Sunday he's looking, Monday he's looking, Tuesday. But the goal is that we should not be deceived by the Tzimtzum, and we see through the curtain, so to speak. In other words, look for God, even though it's initially concealed. That's the Avodah. We look in the world. You can live your life completely oblivious and live your own self-centered life, or you're looking for God everywhere. And you do that through your Avodah, through your awareness, your Izbananus. You're finding God in this dark world. As you continue that process, you ultimately, what you're doing is, you're really doing Havayu Elikim. You're saying, even though the Tzimtzum is Elikim, the Elikim is Tzimtzum, but the truth is Elikim is really only B'Shvil Havaya, only B'Shvil Hagili. The concealment is only in order to reveal more. It's not an end in itself. So when you climb that, when you continue that journey and you come to the, let's call it the end of that journey, so to speak, you have, in a way, transformed the Tzimtzum into Oyer, because what you've done is you've shown that the whole Tzimtzum's purpose is like the teacher who limits the flow in order for the student to understand, so that the student can expand his containers and ultimately connect with the light of the teacher as it is, unfiltered. So that already is what we can call Hafichas HaTzimtzum, or what he says in Aveda, the transformation of the animal soul, which is the Tzimtzum effect on us personally, by recognizing V'haftas Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha b'shnei yitzorecha. But then there's one more point. That is Hashem Elokim, and I just described, even though I didn't spell it out, 3 levels. We talked about the Aliyah from Biyah, the Kalim of Biyah to Atzilus, from Atzilus to higher than Atzilus, Oyer to the source. But then there's another track, it's called Einoid. The very concealment itself, not just that its purpose is to reveal, but where does it come from? Who has the power to conceal? So we say the very concealment is also ultimately expression of godliness, God's power to conceal. So in addition to concealment being transformed to be a channel of Gilui, the Helam itself reveals the Helam Ha'atzmi, and that's also expression. And that's, in a way, even more transformative, because then you're taking the Helam itself, not just the purpose of the Helam, but the Helam itself is really an expression of God in the deepest levels. So the truth is, what you asked about the transformation of the Tzimtzum is happening on 2 tracks. One, you could say in the three Ksarim, the 3 levels of Keser, or the 3 levels of Havaya, Lukim, and Ratzav Veshuv, all the 3, and the other, an Einaid, in Keser Shemtev Ela al Gabein. That's the way I would frame it.
Mm.
Hope that was helpful.
Wonderful. Very clear, very helpful. Yeah.
And if you think about it, it really complements each other, because it's not just about transforming the Helam, the Ein Oid. It's also understanding that the God didn't just conceal in order to conceal; He concealed in order to reveal. But the very concealment is now being transformed. So you really have an ultimate dir v'tachteim in every possible way.
Maybe that's the explanation for the word galus, which means to reveal it.
Galus, yeah.
It means
I
galus
heard
from the word gili. Yeah.
I heard two different things.
Well, I said two different things, so you heard
no,
right.
no. I'm talking. I heard two different things about the two different types of transformations of the tzimtzum. One is that that the tzimtzum is for the purpose of gilui, and the other is that tzimtzum is itself a manifestation of godliness, the highest form, power to conceal the helam ha'atzmi. I heard two things. Okay,
That's exactly what I said.
I
One
know.
is
I haven't asked my question.
and the other one is the helam ha'atzmi. Yeah.
No, I got it loud and clear.
Okay.
My question is on the second part. Although at the first point, when the idea first hits you, it says, "Wow, that's pretty powerful." On the other hand, but Pashta is to me as a really balabatisha level. You're saying that all the darkness and all the sheker I'm asking. I'm not telling you. I'm asking. You're saying we usually think of the tzimtzum and all the darkness as concealment, all the sheker, all the duplicity, chafel mechupel, darkness, chulu. We attribute that to the tzimtzum. And now, so you're saying indirectly. I don't want to get too algebraic here, but you're saying indirectly that's God. That's the highest form of God.
No, you threw in the word sheker and duplicity. I didn't use those words. I used the concealment. That's all I used. The concealment. What the concealment produces, for example, Nazi Germany was a result of the tzimtzum, but you would never say that is God.
Well, okay, that's exactly my point. You completely heard my question.
1 second, let me just finish. The power of concealment is a godly power, but the consequences of it, including free will, where people murder each other or do things that are criminal. No, criminal will never be God. You have to destroy that. You could say the potential for that type of behavior comes from the tzimtzum. But the tzimtzum itself is a divine power of concealment, which is then misunderstood by people. And then when it's misunderstood, it can be distorted and corrupted and ultimately create real destruction and lies and duplicity and so on.
Yeah, I have a question.
That's why that's the difference. We don't say you transform the crime. You have to do tshuva on the crime. The expression is "Zdeinus nasa leikazachius" is the expression. That the very crimes become merits. So the explanation is the spark within the crime. The crime itself, shvirosan zui takanosam. That's why you have that. Even if distress, hitting rock bottom, is what brought the Baal Tshuva to reconnect and be awakened, but he still has to do tshuva. It's not enough to just say, "Hey, you know what? I did every crime on earth, and now I have distress, and therefore I'm bam shechel." You know, there has to be a process of real remorse and completely rejecting that criminal behavior, or let's call it transgression behavior, and then you can reveal the deeper power within the concealment that came from it. But you never elevate the very crime itself.
Very powerful.
Or to put it better put, you're elevated by destroying it. That's the expression. Shvirosan zui takanosan. By destroying the evil, that's its repair. But what you're doing is also redeeming the sparks that were trapped there. Because remember, the energy you invested in doing, I don't mean you, but a person, in doing a crime, that energy is still divine energy. It was just hijacked and taken hostage. And you need to free it. So there's the energy part, that is elevated to the highest helam ha'atzmi. And
the same energy is becoming
let him finish.
a
Let him
positive
finish.
energy.
Let him
1
finish.
second, and the act, however, the act itself has to be eliminated.
Yeah, wow.
I only said what Reb Simon said, that this energy that was used for negativity, this powerful energy is being used now for positivity. It's not only that you're forgetting about it. This same energy, that's why their sins are turning to mitzvahs.
But it has to be directed toward the good. You can't.
Yes.
It's not right.
I have a question, Rabbi. Why?
Let me just finish.
I'm sorry.
Any follow up to that, or it's clear?
Well, I need to chew on it. It's very powerful, but the fact of the matter is that the Helm did enable the Veras and all the evil, whatever
it
else
would not be possible
occur.
without the Helm. It couldn't have been possible. Yes, correct.
And so it's just I get it. I mean it's a perfect time of the year for you to give over the vort you just said, because that's what we're all trying to do during the Yomim Noraim, or even during Elul, is to make those transformations. But and obviously it's one of the best feelings about Tshuva is that you get the power to say, I've elevated myself even higher than before I committed the Avera. Because I've dafka had a gilui in the Helm, I've revealed the divine sparks within the midst of an Avera. It's double geschmack. I got rid of the evil, and I released God the energy as a result of the tshuva. So it's a perfect time of the year, but still wrapping my head around the idea of the entire. I mean, I guess it has to be so. There's nothing God creates has anything evil in it intrinsically, is the point, I guess. And so God created the team, so it must be good. How can it be good? That's dafka your point. That's the revelation of the Helem Asmi in the Choshech. Yeah.
In addition to the Helem B'Shvil Hagili, it goes together.
Yes, thank you.
The point is that because you made such a bad behavior, this itself is making you feel worse. Why did you do it? So the bad things that you did is giving you a more deeper connection and energy to do good, because you feel so bad that you did the bad.
Right.
Also well said, Rabbi Teichel. Thank you.
Okay, there's more to say on this topic. I will talk about it some more. Let's stop here. Let me stop the recording.
I just wanted to comment that, to make a little quick comment. That Samach Vav and Ayin Beis is Gematria Menachem.
Okay.
Mashiach Shema. Menachem.
66 and 72, or Tofrei Samach Vav and Tofrei Ayin Beis?
66 and 72 is 138.
Oh, okay.
So it's the combination of them is Menachem Mashiach Menachem Shema. It's interesting. Okay.
Could I ask a question, Rabbi?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I would like to know when they say that you can transform by doing teshuva, you transform the avera into a merit. Could you talk about that in the context of this? No, but you're saying that it's always going to be bad, the action that you did.
You can't transform evil into good. You could destroy the evil and then extract the sparks, the energy that was in there, and channel that toward good.
Is that sublimating the evil to its root? Is that the same thing?
I don't know what you mean by evil to its root. You have to explain what that means.
It's just something that's
the root is the concealment. Evil does not have a root. Evil is a byproduct.
That's the whole point. That's it. So everything is good.
If you look in the chapter in Torah Meaning for Life on good and evil, I describe the dynamics of it very specifically.
Okay, thank you. Also, I just wondered, since it's so important to know that Havaya is Elohim, why do we only say it on Yom Kippur? I mean,
we don't. We say it almost every day, several times. Hashma Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Hashem Elokeinu.
Oh, okay.
In
Aleinu.
Many places.
We probably. What do you mean? Every bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Hashem Elokeinu.
But we don't say it the way we say it on Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur is like a holier day, so it's more emphasized. But
I see. All right. So, but in a sense, it's also sort of hidden in the regular liturgy, right? In a sense, because we're not really saying.
I just gave every blessing has it.
No, I know.
The 10 Commandments have it. Anochi Hashem Elokecha.
Right. right. Okay.
And then the
Shema
pasuk
being the
itself,
most powerful.
the pasuk we're talking about, V'yadaita hayayim v'ashavesel v'achik ki Hashem hu alikim.
Yes,
That's where it
yes.
comes from. It's a verse. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So let me stop here. The end of page 45. We have a little more to go.